I didn't expect the end of my military career to smell like burnt silicone and cherry-flavored combat rations. But there I was, lying half-buried in ash and nanodust, with a broken helmet visor and a singed eyebrow, on the losing side of the bloodiest skirmish Earth had ever fought. The sky above Virex Ridge was still flickering with residual plasma fire, like someone had taken the northern lights and set them to explode randomly. Our final defense line had collapsed 2 hours ago. My comms were dead. My left arm wasn't exactly broken, but it was arguing loudly with the rest of my body about retirement. So when I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, way too graceful to belong to any of my grunting squad mates, I groaned and rolled over just in time to see a silhouette framed in fire. She looked human at first glance. Almost. Smooth skin with a silvery hue, too perfect to be real. Hair so dark it shimmered blue under the twin moons above. But it was the ears that gave her away. Long, upward curving, like something between elvish royalty and satellite antennas. She wore armor that looked like it had been 3D printed by a god, with good taste and no patience. And her eyes, violet, faintly glowing, locked onto mine with the casual interest of someone inspecting a mildly amusing space worm. "Oh, good," she said, her voice smooth and disarmingly bored. "You're still alive. That makes things easier." I blinked, then coughed. Did I miss a rescue shuttle?" "No," she replied, stepping closer. Her boots made no sound on the fractured ground, which was either extremely cool or extremely terrifying. "You're now classified as an acquisition. Spoil of war. I'm claiming you under Treaty 9 Gamma, Section 14. "Section 14? I croaked. "Does that involve medical aid or snacks?" "Marriage." I stared at her. Through one swollen eye, through the pain, through the clear realization that I had probably suffered brain trauma. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "Did you just say marriage?" She tilted her head, frowning faintly. "Yes, to me. You're quite average, but alive. That counts for something." Now, I'd been through several high-pressure situations in my short military stint. Bomb defusals, failed diplomacy with acid-breathing lizardmen, even an accidental karaoke incident with the Martian ambassador. But none of those had prepared me for this. This alien goddess in death metal armor, declaring me her husband? "I feel like I should be flattered," I said, "but mostly I'm concussed." She reached down, grabbing me by the collar like I was a mildly rebellious cat. "You'll be healed on the ship. We have a very effective dermal regenerator. Also, you'll need to pick a tuxedo." "A tuxedo?" I wheezed. "Are you serious?" "I never joke," she said, then paused. "Except during ceremonial duels. Humor destabilizes opponents." My vision darkened. My consciousness wobbled. But as the auto-lift drone clicked into place beneath me, rising with the hiss of compressed air and alien tech, I had just enough strength to look up and say, "At least tell me your name before you abduct-marry me." She smiled. Just barely. "Commander Thalexa Vereen, Supreme Warlord of the Asanari Voidspires." "Great," I muttered right before passing out. I always wanted to be a war bride. Waking up on an alien warship was a lot like waking up after a college party. Everything smelled faintly of disinfectant and regret, and I had no memory of how I'd ended up shirtless under glowing ceiling panels. Except this time, instead of duct tape on my face, there was a sleek black band wrapped around my wrist, humming faintly and blinking in an ominous teal rhythm. "Vital signs unimpressive," said a dry male voice from nowhere in particular, "but technically alive. Welcome, husband." I flinched, tried to sit up, immediately regretted it. The bed I lay on molded itself around my form like intelligent memory foam, which would have been nice if it weren't for the fact that it also whispered gentle affirmations into my ear. "You are valid," it cooed softly. "Your body is statistically acceptable." "Stop," I muttered. "Consent registered. Affirmations paused," the bed replied. I turned my head slowly. The room was too luxurious to be a brig and too minimalist to be a hospital. Clean walls lit by soft pulses of bioluminescent panels, shifting patterns that somehow resembled coral reefs in motion. There were no visible doors, just an archway sealed with shimmering air. The wardrobe in the corner opened of its own accord as I looked at it, revealing an unsettling number of suits, robes, and one disturbingly sequined tunic. Lieutenant Carson Vell, said the same unseen voice, currently classified under Asset Code Vereen S1. You have been transferred to Commander Thalexa Vereen's private suite aboard the Stellara Morn. Estimated value, 2.4 million credits, mostly sentimental. Mostly what? I blinked. The door shimmered and parted. Thalexa entered carrying a glass of something that frothed and hissed like a freshly awakened volcano. She looked irritatingly well-rested. You slept for 12 hours, she said, handing me the drink. The regenerator did its work. Your ribs are intact again. I had the ship AI monitor your dreams. They were unsettling. I dreamt I was being married to a space elf warlord. That was a memory. Still unsettling. I sipped the drink. It tasted like cinnamon, citrus, and static electricity. I liked it. That scared me. She sat on a chair shaped like a crescent moon and crossed one armored leg over the other. We're en route to Norelia Prime. My council expects proof of bonding within 40 standard hours. Proof of bonding, I echoed. You mean like wedding photos, a gift registry, matching tattoos? Shared political interest, mutual insults in public, possibly dancing. They love dancing. I rubbed my temples. You're seriously going through with this. You are mine, she said calmly. And for the record, that wristband is both a translator and a proximity tracker. If you attempt escape, it plays ancient Osanari breakup songs at full volume in your skull. Let me guess, sad ballads of love lost across galaxies? Number death metal in 23/8 time signature. I hate how specific that is, the AI chimed in. Also, if you don't consummate the union within 72 hours, Osanari law technically returns you to the public auction pool. I stared. There's an auction? Thalexa smiled faintly. Yes. You were ranked third most desirable spoil this season. A general did outbid me briefly, but I threatened to vaporize his moon estate. He took it well. Why me? I asked. Seriously, I'm average. I can't even do a proper push-up without groaning. Because, she said, rising smoothly, you're not important enough to be politically threatening, and yet somehow you amuse me. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with the sequined tunic in the world's sassiest bed. You're married now, the bed whispered. Try not to embarrass yourself. I buried my face in my hands. This was going to be a very long honeymoon. They say the first few days of marriage are all about adjusting, getting used to each other's quirks, finding a rhythm, not vaporizing one another over bathroom habits. For me and Commander Thalexa Vereen, adjusting meant public rituals that involved glowing orbs, anti-gravity waltzing, and surviving a dance competition judged by a 12-eyed jelly diplomat who cried every time someone missed a beat. Welcome to married life in the Osanari Empire. Our first official stop was Arindra 9, a floating city moon entirely populated by aristocratic bioengineered nobles who wore clothes that shimmered with every emotion. My borrowed tunic flashed mild nausea and suspicious attraction every time Thalexa stood too close, which naturally she did often. You're malfunctioning again, she whispered at a banquet, watching my tunic pulse fuchsia and twitch at the hem. I think it's allergic to your perfume, I muttered. Or maybe I'm developing feelings. Could be the shrimp analogs I just ate. Hard to tell. The banquet was only the beginning. Osanari diplomatic rituals required newly bound couples to present 3 acts of emotional synchrony. Sounds romantic, right? Nope. First, we had to engage in a verbal duel, basically a sanctioned roast battle, before a crowd of nobles. I got halfway through comparing her war tactics to board game strategies when she destroyed me with, he tried to flirt once by quoting Earth poetry and accidentally recited a toothpaste commercial. She won. By a landslide. I never stood a chance. Next came the shared trial, where we were dropped into a simulation chamber and forced to co-pilot a starcraft through a collapsing wormhole made of fire and literal regrets. Osanari tech can simulate emotion fields, so the regrets were audible. Mine mostly involved failing gym class and trusting a guy named Dave with financial advice. Still, we made it through. mostly because Thalexa took full control of the navigation and let me focus on screaming and pressing colorful buttons that may or may not have been decorative. Then came the worst ritual, the offering of talents. Each partner had to showcase a skill for the other. Thalexa demonstrated her skill with a dual-phase blade by slicing a droplet of water in half midair, which was elegant and terrifying. I played the harmonica, badly. To her credit, she didn't laugh. She just stared at me with her unreadable glowing eyes and said, "This explains a lot about your species." Despite everything, there were moments, small, flickering things, that caught me off guard, like the way she paused whenever I described Earth food, or how she secretly watched reruns of Friends on the ship's entertainment hub and pretended it was for linguistic research, or how, when we stood on the viewing deck looking out at the twin rings of Arindra, she said, "Do you miss your planet?" in a tone that almost sounded soft. I didn't answer, partly because I wasn't sure, and partly because I was distracted by the massive warship appearing outside the station's perimeter. Its hull bore a symbol I hadn't seen before, but Thalexa stiffened the moment it came into view. "That's Commander Saren's vessel," she said tightly. "He wasn't supposed to know we were here." "Ex-boyfriend?" I asked, attempting casual while already backing toward the corridor. "Ex-fiancé," she replied. "Oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Is he the jealous type?" She didn't answer. Instead, she drew herself to full height and stared at the growing warship with that same unreadable calm. "You may want to put on the sequin tunic," she said. "Why?" "Because if we die, I want him to know you were mine." And sparkly. The thing about StoRy diplomatic confrontations is that they're rarely quiet. You'd think advanced civilizations would develop a sense of subtlety, but no, they prefer grand entrances. So when Commander Saren's warship, the Obsidian Gaze, locked into orbit and fired 1,000 ceremonial fireworks across the sky, I wasn't sure if it was a threat or a proposal. Thalexa, standing beside me on the viewing deck, didn't flinch. He always did have a flair for melodrama. Once tried to duel a senator because he mispronounced his title. I squinted at the flashing displays. "And what does this mean?" "That he's going to request a parley, then threaten to gut you in poetic StoRy." 10 minutes later, we were seated in a diplomatic chamber aboard the Stellar Amorn, surrounded by decorative plasma lanterns, a suspicious number of fruit platters, and one very angry ex-fiancé in armor, so polished I could see my confused reflection in it. Saren entered like he was walking a runway, all sweeping cape and righteous jawline. "Thalexa," he intoned, "we need to talk." She gestured toward me. "We're in the middle of a marriage bonding cycle. Can it wait?" "I'm not sure that counts," he snapped, then turned to me. "Is it true you wed this human?" I raised a hand. "Hi, yes. Still figuring it out myself, honestly. It's been a whirlwind. There was dancing, death threats, and at one point I think a sentient pillow judged me." Saren's eye twitched. "This is beneath you, Thalexa. He's soft. He leaks from several places." "Only under extreme stress," I replied, "or after too much alien fruit." Thalexa sighed and stood. "Carson is my consort under Treaty 9 Gamma. You know the law. Laws can be bent, especially for someone so disposable." I stood as well, partly to defend my honor, and partly because my seat had just emitted a suspicious hiss. "Look, buddy, I may not be genetically enhanced, or combat optimized, or able to speak in dramatic monologues, but I've survived a lot lately, including an alien dance battle, a bath with mood-sensitive algae, and several of your species' side-eye glances. So maybe I'm not the ideal consort, but I'm the one she chose. Deal with it." There was a long silence. Then Saren laughed, the kind of deep, practiced laugh that sounded expensive. "Very well," he said. "Let's see how long your union lasts once the truth is known." Then he left, cape fluttering like it had a personal vendetta. Afterward, Thalexa didn't speak. Not immediately. She led me back to her private chamber. Well, our private chamber now, and poured herself a glass of something glowing a dangerous green. "You're not telling me something," I said softly. She looked at me then, all traces of the commander gone. "I didn't marry you just to defy the council or to mock Saren, You're not a joke to me, Carson. I blinked. Okay, now I'm scared. She handed me a slim metallic disc, a data slate. I intercepted something classified. Your DNA isn't entirely human anymore. Somewhere along the war front, you were exposed to a mutagenic compound. You're immune to our neural override systems. That makes you extremely valuable and very dangerous. I stared at the slate. So I'm a rare collectible? Great. Do I at least come with a display stand? She smirked. Just a little. You come with me. The lights dimmed as the ship transitioned into hyperspace. We were heading to Starforge Station, the last neutral zone in the quadrant, a place of secrets, shadows, and inconvenient truths. And maybe, if we were lucky, some answers, hopefully ones that didn't involve more sequin tunics. If you've never been to Starforge Station, imagine a city built inside the ribs of a dead celestial leviathan, then retrofitted by a committee of mad architects, shady diplomats, and caffeine-fueled engineers who never once agreed on an aesthetic. The result is a floating maze of glowing bones, rusted domes, neon temples, and noodle vendors that also sell black market plasma grenades. It's the last place in the quadrant where you can buy both a synthetic liver and a wedding cake in the same alley. Naturally, it was where Thalexa took me for our second honeymoon. Neutral territory, she explained as our cloaked shuttle docked, means no one can legally abduct or assassinate you here, unless it's during festival hours. Is it currently festival hours, I asked. She checked the display. Technically, yes, but only for species classified as tentacled. Good. Then my squishy human body should be safe for at least, ow, something just licked my ankle. Festival initiation. Consider yourself blessed. So began our glorious arrival into the underbelly of galactic politics. Our goal, find a rogue geneticist named Dr. Vess Thorin, who supposedly had information about my special DNA. Also, he once cloned a space whale out of spite, so we figured he'd be flexible. But finding Thorin wasn't easy. He didn't exactly have a listing in the Space Yellow Pages. We had to barter with smugglers, win a rigged trivia contest at a bar made of obsidian, and, at one point, compete in a cooking show judged by a sentient cloud. Surprisingly, I won. Turns out grilled cheese is a universal concept. Eventually, we found Thorin living inside an abandoned temple, repurposed as a biolab. The inside smelled like ozone and warm bread. Comforting, until you noticed the glass tanks lining the walls, each one pulsing with eerie blue light and floating things. Some human, some not. Some somewhere in between. Theron himself was a lanky humanoid with skin like translucent marble and glasses made of living crystal. Ah, he said upon seeing me. The husband. Please don't call me that, I muttered. He scanned me with a device that looked suspiciously like a carrot peeler. Yes, you're definitely altered. Not fully human anymore. Fascinating structure around the hippocampus. Who did this to you? No idea, I said. But I'd like to send them a very sarcastic thank you card. Thalexa leaned in. Can it be reversed? Thorin laughed, a wheezing bird-like sound. Why would you want to reverse it? This man's immune system could short out half the neural tech in the Empire. He could walk into a command center and make it crash just by sneezing. Tempting, I said, but I'd rather not weaponize my allergies. Thoran looked at me, suddenly serious. There are others like you. The Council doesn't want peace. They want your genome. For control. You are the wedge in a very fragile wall. I swallowed. So what do I do? Go into hiding? Change my name to Dave and open a coffee stand? Thalexa spoke before he could answer. We go public. I blinked. You want to… what? Tell the entire galaxy we're married and I'm genetically inconvenient? Yes, she said, eyes steely. If the Empire and Earth both want to use you, then we force them to see you. Not as a tool, not as a threat, but as my consort, as yourself. Won't that start a war? She smiled faintly. Only if we're lucky. Before I could object, Thoran handed me a ring. Not symbolic, a biotech ring humming with energy. It's yours now, he said, bound to your DNA. Consider it a wedding gift and a failsafe. If anyone tries to override your mind, it'll overload and take their brain with it. I stared at it. Wow. Romantic. We should leave, Thalexa said. It's almost sundown. Why does that matter? She handed me a festival flyer. At night, they sacrifice outsiders who accidentally win cooking contests. I clutched the ring tighter. Okay, no more grilled cheese diplomacy. Galactic weddings are rarely small, but ours was ridiculous. It took place in the Nebula Cathedral of Rouse End, a crystalline structure that orbited a dying star and sang low harmonic notes every time someone lied near the altar. Perfect location for a ceremony where half the guest list wanted to kill the groom and the other half wanted to clone him. Thalexa stood beside me in ceremonial armor lined with stardust filaments. She looked like a war goddess, and a cosmic diplomat had collided and formed a terrifyingly elegant singularity. I, on the other hand, wore a tailored robe made of bio-weave silk that shifted color depending on my heart rate. It settled somewhere between anxious plum and sweaty maroon. Relax, she murmured as the presiding officiant, a sentient orb of fire named Blorum, hovered into position. Relax, I whispered. Half of Earth Command is watching. The StoRy High Council is sitting in the second row, looking like they want to ignite me. And someone just gifted us a neural disruptor shaped like a gravy boat. Symbol of respect. Is it also armed? Only slightly. And then the broadcast began. Every major civilization tuned in, thanks to Thalexa's stealthy manipulation of diplomatic channels, and some help from Dr. Theron's surprisingly media-savvy fungus friends. The event wasn't just a ceremony, it was a galactic message. We stood together, human and StoRy, consort and commander, no scripts, no teleprompters, just us. I don't know what I expected when I was captured, I said aloud, voice trembling only a little. Probably torture, definitely confusion, possibly dismemberment, but not this, not marriage, not change. A few scattered chuckles from the human side, some wary blinking from the StoRy. I didn't mean to matter, I continued. I was just a soldier, average at best. But I've learned that sometimes being average means you survive when others don't. And surviving, choosing to live, to connect, to love, that can be an act of rebellion. Thalexa's turn. She spoke slowly, with the calm certainty that made admirals sweat and bureaucrats wet themselves. My people value power, strategy, efficiency. But those things mean nothing without meaning. Carson Vell is chaotic, soft-bodied, musically untalented, and utterly irreplaceable. He is my consort. He is my choice. Let that stand as both treaty and truth. And somehow in that moment, it worked. The ring Thorin gave me activated as I slipped it on, forming a brief halo of protective light, a subtle signal to all factions. Try me. The cathedral's harmonic sensors glowed blue, no deception detected, and just like that, the war didn't resume. The council didn't erupt in rage. Earth's delegates didn't launch a drone strike. Instead, for one long, improbable minute, the galaxy held its breath, and then exhaled. Afterward, there were toasts, applause, some confusion over the ritual dancing, during which I accidentally knocked over a dignitary with my elbow and got nominated for Most Spirited Groom. We left the reception on a stealth skiff shaped like a swan. Thalexa had lost a bet. She took it well. Later, drifting through quiet space, she sat beside me beneath a glass dome that showed stars like spilled sugar across black velvet. "You've changed," she said, watching me sip tea from a cup shaped like a skull. "I wear less denim and more bio-armor, and I know 3 words in your language now. One of them means emergency pants." "No," she said, almost smiling. "You're not running anymore." I looked at her then, truly looked, and realized she was right. I'd started as a prisoner, a pawn, a sarcastic grunt hoping to avoid attention. But somehow, amid aliens and politics and sarcastic furniture, I'd found something better than survival. I'd found meaning. So I reached for her hand, laced my fingers through hers, and said the bravest thing I'd said all day. "I think I love you." She didn't answer immediately, but she didn't let go either, and that was more than enough.